From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2023. Israeli troops came under heavy gunfire during a counter-terror operation today in the West Bank. IDF troops in an operation together with Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, were in Nablus to arrest several senior members of the Lion's Den terror group, responsible for the murder this past October of IDF soldier Staff Sergeant Ido Baruch. The IDF said after surrounding the building where the terror suspects were holed up, security forces asked the suspects to turn themselves in. They refused and opened fire at the forces, so the security forces operated to thwart the terrorist squad. Several suspects were neutralized. The IDF also said suspects hurled rocks, explosive devices, and Molotov cocktails at the forces. In the intense gun battle, 2 Israeli soldiers were lightly hurt. The Times of Israel said the Palestinian Authority Health Ministry said 10 Palestinians were killed. Palestinian terror groups vowed revenge, and Israel police are on high alert. The Knesset today passed another first reading of a judicial reform bill, further restricting the power of Israel's High Court. This bill would allow the Knesset to legislate laws that are preemptively immune to judicial review, with a simple majority of 61 out of 120 Knesset members. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met today with a number of U.S. senators at his office in Jerusalem, including with Democrat Alex Padilla, Republican Jim Risch, Republican Tom Cotton, and with a bipartisan congressional delegation and a Democratic congressional delegation. In the meetings, Netanyahu's office said the prime minister stressed the importance of the link between Israel and the U.S. and said that despite disagreements, the U.S. is our greatest friend. He emphasized the importance of the bipartisan ties between Israel and the U.S. and thanked his visitors for their support for Israel. Among the topics discussed, the Prime Minister's office said, were regional developments, particularly Iran and its proxies in the Middle East, as well as the great contribution of the Abraham Accords to regional stability and possibilities for their expansion. Commander of the Israeli Air Force, General Tomer Bar, is in Morocco, his first official visit to the country, which normalized ties with Israel under the Abraham Accords at the end of 2020. Bar met with his Moroccan counterpart, General El Abed Bohamid, and the IDF said he would be visiting Air Force bases in Morocco with the aim of strengthening cooperation between the armies. Well, the Broadway show Parade opened to previews last night in New York City. The revival of the 1998 Tony Award-winning musical tells the true story of Leo Frank, the Jewish manager of a factory in Atlanta, wrongfully accused and convicted of murdering a girl in 1913, sentenced to death and then commuted to life in prison, but Frank was kidnapped by an armed mob and lynched. Well, last night, a group of neo-Nazis gathered outside the Bernard Jacobs Theater to protest the show. Parade producers released a statement in response, reading, "If there is any remaining doubt out there about the urgency of telling this story in this moment in history, the vileness on display in front of our theater last night should put it to rest." The Anti-Defamation League noted Frank's wrongful conviction and lynching by an anti-Semitic mob catalyzed its organization's work. Tweeting, "The neo-Nazis protesting outside the theater last night should only further motivate the talented cast and crew to keep fighting hate for good." Jewish actor Ben Platt, who stars as Leo Frank, took to social media about the incident, something he said he does not usually do, but felt compelled in this case.
For those who don't know, there were a few neo-Nazi protesters from a really disgusting group outside of the theater, bothering some of our patrons on their way in and saying anti-Semitic things about Leo Frank, who the show is about, and just spraying anti-Semitic rhetoric that led to this whole story in the first place. If you don't know about it, I encourage you to look up the story and most importantly, encourage you to come see the show. And it was definitely very ugly and scary, but a wonderful reminder of why we're telling this particular story and how special and powerful art and particularly theater can be. And just made me feel extra grateful to be the one that gets to tell this particular story and to carry on this legacy of Leo.
Platt saying the emphasis of the night should be celebrating the show and the work of his co-stars and not the really ugly actions of a few people who are spreading evil. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, February the 22nd at 7 o'clock. It's Talmud Study. At 7:30, actor, producer, director Tracee Ellis Ross talks about identity at the ADL's Never Is Now conference. At 8, Urban League President Marc Morial sits with Rabbi Marc Schneier and Valerie Nash to talk about the state of Black-Jewish relations today. At 8:30, Rabbi Schneier and Valerie Nash speak with NAACP President Derrick Johnson. At 9, Part 2 of Mordechai Kedar on L'chaim. At 10, Beth Ginsburg discusses the history of Jewish political participation in the U.S. and other world governments. And coming up next, it's Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.